Welcome to 108 Gate, where we're looking at current energies, and let's do a reading around it, see what comes up. So the first thing that's very prominent, one card for 1 on the floor, but before that, there's like a circle, like a halo or a orb of energy around things. So it could be around self, it could be, it's not a literal orb, it's like you're the center of a certain type of energy, and that is like a buffer zone, but it's also bringing in a lot of unknowns, not being clear about this, not being sure about this, because there's certain, it's like your vision can only go so far, your insight can only go so far. So looking more into the energy that we spoke about yesterday's reading, if you haven't seen that, you can check it out. So there's wanting to step forward and not stepping forward because you don't know what is ahead of you. Therefore, instead of just going forward, where are you stopping yourself from taking that next step forward? And start feeling out where you're heading. Start feeling out which is the correct direction. Instead, some may be blocked and stop in one area. Forget me not, remembrance. Okay. So instantly, it's as though some things are being remembered that are not, they weren't the best experiences, or they weren't the best decisions or the best direction to go in. So if those are the things that are being remembered, it makes sense as to why you're not going forward, because you're still latching on to those things that didn't go so well, still latching on to the things that they just didn't turn out the way you expected, didn't turn out the way you wanted. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again. At the same time, there is some element of well done for having some caution, but at the same time, when this caution stops you from actually taking any step forward, then it's been detrimental to yourself. So then you've got to have some compassion. Forgiveness of the past, forgiveness of what you have chosen before and didn't work out. There may have been a reason why your soul, why you needed to do something in the past. It may have needed to work out the way it did, so that you could see what was going on in that particular way, to work out and see through and process those kind of energies, process those kind of outcomes, process whatever it is that was coming up. It may not have been favourable, but it's better than it being locked in your energy core, better than it being locked in your aura. So from this, therefore, wow, that's massive. Got 9 coins. From here, the value is higher than you are aware of. It's higher than you can imagine. So allowing self to forgive self for those things that didn't work out, forgive self for things that weren't going to plan. It's because you had an expectation of a plan to be a particular way, to have a particular outcome. What if it just had to be that way, and it had to have that outcome for you to be able to now be aware of it and let it go, to then move on to the next thing? You can't let go of something if you're going to still keep remembering it in a particular way. So if you remember it in a different way, you remember it as a lesson you've learned. Remember it as a experience you had, rather than I wish that hadn't happened and this was detrimental and that was detrimental. Yes, it may be emotionally loaded, and that's possibly why you need to seek solace from that, because right after that you get the 10 of coins. There is so much value, high value wanted to come in your emotional being, in your emotional well-being, wanting to take you to that next step, wanting to take you to the next level of yourself. That's really like 9 then 10 instantly. Remember yourself in a different way. Remember the situations in a different way. Instead of being accusing, instead of being blaming, instead of being detrimental to self, instead of being angry, instead of being hurt, process the emotions, allow the emotions to process, and then find a new way of being in that same thing. Really, the value of it is immeasurable at this point. So, King of Wands. Therefore, take those steps. It's the bigger steps you've got to be ready to take, the ones you don't even know. Where is your soul crying out for more? Where are you wanting to be more of yourself? If you don't take those steps, or if you don't even start preparing to take those steps, how are you going to do it? It's not actually gonna go into place with it. So, for example, if you're going on a long journey, and you're going in a car, just as an example, you need to make sure you have fuel in the car. You have your supplies, you have packed everything you need, you have this, that and the other. But you need to do that before you even get into the car, before you even go on the journey. So this is saying all those things to get on your journey, you need to prep, you need to do, and part of that is looking at things in a different way. Instead of holding yourself back, how are you going to go forward? Yes, that happened, yet how am I going to go forward from this? How do I move forward from this? How do I leave that behind in a healthy way, and so I don't repeat it, and then come forward to the next step, to the next level, to the next part of the process. Fantastic energy. And then you have the sun. It can't be any simpler. So simple. Just have a few seconds to look at that. If you need to listen to it again, I'd highly recommend it, because the equation is simple. Doing it is not. But if you keep reinforcing it, you can get through those barriers. You can get through those spaces where you're blocking yourself. So for now, peace and love.